We are back with redefining success. And today, Amy and I are going to talk about something that I think is so important when we're trying to build success, build our businesses, build our life. But how do we build that on a foundation that doesn't feel filled with confidence? Maybe we're at that starting point again where we don't know where to go. Self doubt is seeping in. We're looking outside for all the answers. And sometimes we just come up short and we're just like, where do we go? What do we do? And so that can really ding on our self confidence, on our confidence as leaders, as business owners. And we find ourselves in a place where do we go? Again, we're stuck at that crossroad. So today we're going to talk about what it means to redefine success and build confidence from within. And so that's really our holistic approach that this entire series is based upon, is that when we can create a life and a business from the inside out, externally driven, we already have the answers within. So I know that we had a little bit of a rocky start on our series that we started. And so when we talk about, oh my gosh, we're failing or we can't figure this out, we can't do that, we can't do that. Listen, all that is real, but it doesn't mean that that's where it ends, that stops us. So the confidence is getting back up after trial and error, after fall and flop, after failure and little inches. And we're like, are we even making progress? And the truth is we are. So confidence comes from building a consistent foundation, from learning from those mistakes and getting the courage to step back up and start again. So that's what confidence is, especially in business and especially in entrepreneurship, because there really is no roadmap or key to success. Because as an entrepreneur, the entirety of that is that we're creating something from nothing, that this doesn't exist. Our business, our ideas, everything that we're looking to bring into the world, there may be others that are doing something similar. However, nobody has done what you are aspiring to do or want to do. And that's why there is no roadmap or blueprint for your proven method of success. And so I just want to point something out here today is that Amy has just published her book and has become a published best-selling author. And her whole book is about building businesses and the CEO method of helping to build the foundation. Well, I, on the other hand, I can help you get off the ground and build that confidence, build that esteem, and help build a strategic plan based on your vision to help align the vision with the strategy. And that's where the success comes in, where you start taking those micro steps that lead to the macro steps and you start building the confidence from within. So Amy, I'd love to hear a bit more about your book, share about the book, and then we'll talk about some of those strategies and tips that we can start implementing today.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much. Secondly, there's a million different ways to get to the same outcome. And I think the really critical piece is figuring out what works for you. And I spent my life, always seeking that external validation, but it wasn't until I gave myself that permission to start before I felt ready, because ready is just an illusion. And when you're seeking that validation externally and you're relying on everyone else, that's not where you're building that confidence. Confidence is really, truly like starting before you feel ready. Because, spoiler alert, you're never going to feel ready. Confidence comes in the doing. I mean, even the process of writing a book, and you've written a best-selling book as well, you don't really feel ready. Even when it goes out there, it's like, oh my gosh, it's terrifying. But we were talking a little bit earlier, and it's really about having that willingness to just start. You don't wake up one day and say, you know what? I'm just going to be an expert at riding my bike. I feel so confident that I can ride this bike. But, when we're kids, we kind of detach from that outcome. We're like, okay, I'm going to learn how to ride a bike. And you're willing to fall down over and over and over. But the most important part isn't the falling down. It's the willingness to get back up and to try again. And it's the taking action. It's in getting beat up a little bit and learning and building that resilience. That's what builds confidence. Confidence is an evolution. It's a skill that we're practicing every single day, but in taking action and our willingness to be a beginner again, that's where we truly build that confidence from within. So,
Mm.
confidence isn't one of those things that you're going to wake up one day confident. I'm sorry, you can't just magically arrive there. It's in the willingness to start, in your willingness to get on the field, get beat up a little bit, and develop that resilience.
Absolutely. And I love that you said it's the willingness to just start, to take that action. And it's the imperfect, messy action. Because the
Yes.
truth is that you're never going to, your first time trying or doing anything is never going to be a home run. I mean, rarely do you hit that one hit wonder kind of success. And that might be just the fluke of it. But when you go back to try to replicate that one hit wonder, it's nearly impossible to hit that same milestone again, again, again. And so the confidence comes from consistently showing up, taking that imperfect, messy action, being open. You have to have this openness because if you're so shut off to thinking, oh my gosh, if I fall or flop or fail, then that's it. But the openness and the willingness to learn from those quote unquote failures. And a lot of times we see in this space is that people don't take that first step because of the failure and they let that failure define their opportunity to succeed. And so success is really built upon micro steps of failures, right? Because we're constantly learning, we're growing, we're refining, we're shaping, we're shifting, we're constantly in bend. And that's one of the biggest things I think for me was like, being willing to having the willingness to be flexible, to sway one way or the other, and not hold so steady on the expectant outcome because the outcome is a variable that is dependent upon which way the wind blows, more or less. And so building that confidence comes again from taking that seed of the idea or the inspiration and just looking at it and holding that vision up front and saying, this is what I want to accomplish. This is the goal. How do I get there? Well, if we focus on the how, we're missing out on the path of what the destination where we're going. So focus on the destination, which is the vision. Take that first step and then inch it, each micro step. As you're growing and going, you're learning something more about the process. You're learning about, for us, it's always a tech issue, right? But we're learning each time. And so now we know what not to do. So now you go back to your drawing board and you say, okay, that didn't work. What can I do today that I learned from yesterday that I could try again today? And that's the thing with entrepreneurship. It really is a trial and error thing, but you have to, that's sometimes we see it plastered across social media that it's an overnight success and that you're going to hit that home run out of the gate. But we're here to really show you some of those behind the scenes and just the realness of it is that it's not like that. It's not always going to be perfect, but the consistency compounded over time will yield the results. And the result is what you're building and basing your confidence upon, because that's something you're building as that foundation. So those are those little stepping stones or the bricks or the micro steps, however it translates into your space. But showing up each day, setting long-term goals, give yourself a runway that is far enough into the future, but short enough to still keep that goal in the forefront. So it doesn't feel like you're working so long and so hard and it's years, but you haven't really achieved anything. So setting those micro moment or milestones for those micro steps will build up that confidence and esteem. So when you do have a setback, you're never set completely back to the starting line. You're actually just set back a little bit. And that's the constant refinement to go back at it again. And that's one of the biggest things that ties in with confidence is the resiliency. Because when we do fall back, we bounce right back up. And that's the resiliency. And it's something that's definitely needed in this entrepreneurship journey and also will help to refine that confidence too, because that's one of the things you're going to get knocked down. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to get knocked down. Oh yeah. But get back up. And the quicker you get back up, the quicker you keep going at it. It's, really the only one we choose to stay down is when we've really failed in that sense.
Right, exactly. And that's where the growth occurs in those tough times, because what is that doing? It's giving us information. But in order to get the information, we have to take action. We have to take action in order to get that data to analyze, and then we can make those small adjustments, exactly as you said. It's not about making this massive 180 pivot every single time we encounter resistance. It's just making those little micro adjustments, really using that information that we're given that, okay, guess what? This doesn't mean that I'm a failure because I'm going to learn from this. And this is going to propel me faster and faster. But I think that's the difference between confidence and, if you're feeling just dejected. Confidence is really just doing the thing consistently, like you said, over and over and over, despite that but despite that adversity that comes up. But we have to take action. And I will tell you what, if you think like from the outside looking in, if you're looking at Rachel or I and like, oh, that's easy for them to say. Guess what? There's still times when we face like massive imposter syndrome, massive doubts. Like I do not feel confident every day, but I'm making the choice to show up. I'm making the choice to keep going, to keep gathering that data so I can make those small little adjustments. And so that then I feel more confident in myself. It's really about learning to trust yourself, learning to get quiet and go, you know what? I have the answers that I need. Yes, there's feedback, and I welcome that feedback. But at the end of the day, I need to quiet the noise and give myself permission to know and to do what I know is best for me. And that lived experience, a lot of times we discount that in our lives. And it's like, no, you have all the answers already. What feels good to you? And the first time, it's not going to be easy. The second time, the third time, the 100th time. But we have to stop comparing our journey to someone else's. And I think that's so important to realize that, you know what, we're all on our own journey. And we can amplify one another. And we can lean on one another and support one another. And that's really, truly where confidence is born, in just giving yourself that permission again to be a beginner.
Absolutely. I love that. It's like, again, that whole openness and the willingness to be be a student at life, be a student in your own business, because being a master doesn't serve anybody. Right. And so if we're in a place of service, we have to be able to be that student for ourselves, but also open to teaching and learning, because that's how we refine that skill. And one of the things, when we talk about like that consistency compounded over time yields the result. Now we could take that method into everything that we do in life, because it's kind of like, for me, I'm in this fitness and wellness space, but look at it from like weight loss or strength training. It's these small steps over time that will build up the results. And you can look back and say, wow, I've achieved, some of the goals, right? Because not the big goal. It's always, and the truth is you're always going to have another goal. So you have a goal, and you're getting closer to it, you're like, we're getting nearer. So let's set the next goal.
Right.
Next goal. So it's the constant moving of the goalpost per se. But one of the things that always comes to mind, especially with building that confidence, and to your point, Amy, is listen, I'm the founder of The Confident Woman. It's a lifestyle media brand. Like we're giving lessons, we're giving the tools, the resources, all of that stuff. But me as the founder, I'm not always confident. There's a lot of stuff that I'm venturing into new areas that I want to challenge myself to grow. And as I'm in these new areas, I'm like, holy smokes, I do not feel like the confident woman. But the truth is, it's like, I will become confident when I constantly show up and refine that. But one of the things to note is we hear about the confidence and competent loop as well. So when you feel competent to go up to bat, to at least give it a try, and whether you hit that home run or you strike out, that is the competence. Okay, I'm good enough. I think I can do this. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to try. But the more competent we are, the more we are able to succeed. And success is not about hitting that milestone, not hitting that home run. It's about learning. So the success is like, wow, I gave it a try. Now I realize maybe that hit is going over here, that pitch is going there, and so on. So competence is, the more competent you are, the more successful you will become. And the more successful you will become, the more confident you become. And so we're taking this whole different approach about success because it's not about hitting those arbitrary numbers and the big mile markers that we see out there in business or in life. But those are those things that you can go back in your journal or your own KPI board or whatever that looks like for you and start measuring that success from who you were yesterday to who you were last week to who you were last month to who you were 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Because in the future of where you're planning from 1 year, 3 years, 5 years out is really taken in that account here today in the present moment. So if we're able to be in this present moment and look at it from both spectrums, the past versions and the future versions, this is the time where you get to adjust your sails and make the changes that will lead you to the goals of where you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you versus you. And
Mhm.
we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to anyone else but ourselves. Because when you compare yourself to yourself, like you can see the progress you've made.
Right.
So often we're focused on the future that we forget how far we've actually come. But another thing you said too, you have to put in the reps. It is like a muscle. You can't one day just be like, I'm going to go run a marathon. Okay, well, that's awesome. But if I tried to go out and run a marathon today, I would probably die on the side of the road. Let's be honest. I am not a runner. But if I put in those reps, if I practiced, if I persisted, if I kept showing up on those days where, you know what, it's raining out and I don't want to go for a run. Well, guess what? I'm not going to see any progress. But if I really make that commitment and embody that, like I am a runner, I can do this. That's where I build up that, like you said, competence. Because now I'm embodying that person that I want to be. I'm now training my brain that, okay, this is important to me. I'm going to embody this and I'm going to achieve what I set out to do. And now I don't have to compare myself with anyone else because I'm just comparing my journey to the progress that I have made. And when we stop and take the time to appreciate how far we've actually come, it's really humbling because, like you said, we're always moving that goalpost. It's like, okay, I achieved this. What's next? What's the last time you actually just sat in just that in how far you've come and truly appreciated yourself and your resilience and the newfound confidence. Because even though you may not think that you're confident now, like look at yourself and what you're doing. Like if you would have told me a year ago, hey, Amy, guess what? In March of 2024, you're going to write a book and it's going to hit, in its category on Amazon as a bestseller. I would have been like, what? Like, I don't do that. Number one, I'm not a writer. Number two, like, huh? Like, I'm the person that wouldn't like to even show my face on social media. But now I'm just like, okay, you know what? Like, whatever. This is me. This is me showing up with my hair in a top knot. Like, this is reality. And I'm not going to be for everyone. But it
Mhm.
was in taking those micro steps, as we talked about, that's what built the confidence. Really being truly committed to myself, giving myself that permission. That's where the confidence comes into play.
Yes, I love that. I love that because we talk about, giving yourself permission, taking those micro steps, being open to failing and learning
Yeah.
and growing and all those things. Because those, again, these are tools that are in your tool belt that you could pull out anytime that you have access to. But if we're not in a space where we can tap internally and instead we're looking externally, that's where we forget that we have everything that we need. We always do. And that's the thing. Like, here's one of the things that's kind of like the biggest lesson that I've learned in life and in business is that everything that we need is found within. And that is the confidence that when you can search within, you realize you have the insights, you have the know-how, you have the tools, you have the resources, you have the connection, you have everything you need. And even though you might say, well, I'm venturing into a place that I've never gone before, so I don't even know what I need. Right. So that's that self-doubt, right? The uncertainty. But it's never about that you don't have something. It's a lack of resources when you could tap in to your resources, right? Sometimes it's just asking somebody, and that's your network. Sometimes it's about tuning in a quiet place to listen to that intuition, and that knowing will pipe up, and that little whisper will tell you, take that first step, turn right. It's going to say something to you. But when we're in a place that we feel so uncertain, riddled by self-doubt, insecurity, and just unsure of what to do, that's when we step outside ourselves and we start looking and asking everybody else,
Right.
how do I do that? What do I do? What's the next step? And that's when we start losing sight of the vision, but we also start losing pieces of ourselves because we're indirectly giving away our power and trusting other people that they have the answers to our vision that was a God given vision that is unique to me. And nobody has the same vision as myself, Amy, and so on. It's kind of like the whole snowflakes or fingerprints. No two are alike. And that's what's so cool is that when we can really harness that and own it, that becomes a superpower in itself where we can go create a business, create a life, create a difference and an impact in this world because we know that we were created with, for, and on a purpose. So it's all of this coming full circle and building that confidence from within is really knowing who you are and whose you are. Like, this is the cool thing. It's like what Amy says, like, who are you, right? So tap into that. And if you're not sure who you are, take that time to really just step back instead of looking externally for those answers, but seek within. Find a quiet place, journal some thoughts, things that come up. What are you good at? What are some of the skills? What is, what I call as our tags, our talents, abilities, our gifts, and our skills. Those are so uniquely packaged and designed just for you. So it's like when we can really get to know ourselves, we realize we have this vast array of tools that you might not have and I might not have as the next person. But that's the cool thing. And so when we get to that place and we look at now as our network, we can say, hey, Amy, do you have that screwdriver or do you have that hammer? And you start exchanging your own tools because now you're leveraging your assets and your own gifts that you can help empower somebody else and they can vice versa for you as well. And so that becomes that back and forth, which is just, again, bouncing that ping pong ball of confidence. And so that's really kind of the whole inner being of it. Well, then we talk about the tangibles and the strategies as well. So there's so many different facets of it, but our our whole purpose here for this series is helping you to see yourself differently, tap into that creative intuition and that God-given vision, and everything that you have within is there for a reason and a season. And sometimes it's just, again, going to the batter's box and saying, hey, is this one going to be a hit or a flop, and being okay with that. But then also the people you know as well. And so that's, really how this whole purpose of this series came about is because I think, just for full transparency, it's like sometimes we get lost in that. And I had found myself lost in a place of that where it's like, oh, but I didn't know, how do I do this? And I saw it so far outside myself that I lost myself in the journey. And that became something I started realizing. And I said, listen, success by social media or by the world is different than how I define success, because success to me is, am I better than the person I was yesterday? And so on. And we take the same metrics with KPIs, right? With business. Is my business better than it was a week ago, a month ago, and so on? So now you have something to really fall back on and pull as a measure of progress. And that's the biggest thing, is like focusing on that progress over the perfection or the big hits or the big wins, because we see that when, in social media, people are always posting their highlight reels. They're always talking about the big things, but we don't know the story that led to where they're at today. So that's something just definitely to keep mindful of.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. And taking the time to really ask yourself that question, what does success look like to me? What do I really want? And a lot of times we don't have the answers to those questions because we've gotten so consumed and engulfed by society's idea of success, what success looks like to everyone else. And I was there. I was there and I had no clue what I wanted. I had everything that on paper I thought I wanted. But what I realized was that wasn't what I wanted anymore. And that's okay to change. But you have to stretch yourself. And it's not easy. It's scary. It is so scary to go outside of your comfort zone. But honestly, that's been one of the most powerful things that's helped me gain confidence is challenging myself and really stretching outside of my comfort zone, seeking those things that make me uncomfortable, doing those things that I never intended to do. But it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take on this challenge and just trust in myself, trust in God's plan for me, that I am taking action in the right direction. And if not, you know what? We'll learn something along the way. We'll figure it out as we go. But it's that resistance that builds strength, right? You can't keep going to the gym lifting 1 pound weights, expecting yourself to one day be able to deadlift 500 pounds. No, it doesn't work like that. You get stronger through the resistance. You get more confident in stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone. So if you're struggling right now with confidence, like, I just don't feel confident, I challenge you. Do something today that stretches you a little bit. It doesn't even have to be big. Maybe it's just, you know what? I'm going to take a selfie of my face and put it on social media because I don't like to show up. Okay, just say hello, like, do something, no matter how small you may think it is. Start. Start stretching yourself somewhere because it gets easier. That's what builds the resilience. Keep going and you'll notice, like, oh my gosh, like, I did it. Now let's challenge ourselves a little bit more and keep doing that. And like in a month, in a quarter, in a year, like, look how much you'll have grown if you just keep taking those micro actions.
Absolutely. And that's, really is kind of like a recap of how we can build those stepping stones that lead to a confident life, a confident business. And the more confident we are, our failures are just so minimal. And I hate using that word failure because it
Right.
really is, we hear it everywhere, but that's why we use it because it's something tangible that everybody's familiar with. But, failure really is just what didn't work. And so we start again. But, as we continue this series, our goal is to really to provide just simple takeaways, tips, tools, strategies to really empower you to go after the life that you love, redefine success on your own terms, and just getting that clarity and that peace of mind, but also that inner peace to know that you're exactly where you need to be. There is no set timeline for you. There is no mile marker of that you have to meet these quotas and deadlines and goals and all these things, but you're exactly where you need to be. You're here. And if you're at a crossroads or you're on one path or the other, exactly where you need to be. And giving yourself that permission, as Amy says, to be okay with that, to know that as we continue this journey of life, there's going to be all kinds of circumstances and situations that are beyond our control. But if we're at a place where we have this inner peace and knowing and trusting that God's plans are unfolding for us, whether we take that step today or maybe we need to rest that day, doesn't matter, but it's already laid out for us. But our whole goal and purpose here is to trust and be in abidance with the plan and just taking that messy, imperfect action. Because again, we have a mission here. We have a purpose. We have something that we want to bring into this world and leave as part of our legacy. But while we're here, our goal is to make that impact. So we hope that this session here was inspiring, that we provided some tangible insight, because if we're going to continue this journey and we're going to continue providing just like that, little micro takeaways that you can help build up that journey of success and redefining it on your own terms. So I look forward to connecting next week again. We have another topic coming for those that are interested. We are going to be talking about how to navigate change with faith. And so as we navigate this journey, faith, whether that is, your faith in your higher power or it's faith in that belief in yourself and your your abilities, right? We have to have self confidence, we have to have self belief. And so having that faith that we can succeed because we're redefining what success means. So, yes, we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining us.